After 6 years of heartbreak, a millionaire CEO discovers an incredible reunion with his ex-wife. Jack Miller stepped off his private jet, the smell of jet fuel still lingering in the air, but it was the aroma of home smoky barbecue and fresh pies from the diner that pulled at his heart. This was the town he had left behind, the town where dreams were built and broken, especially his. The once struggling mechanic had transformed into a billionaire CEO, yet all the wealth in the world couldn't fill the empty space in his heart where Emily had once lived. The fluttering of hope clashed violently with the nagging grief of losing the love he thought he could retrieve later. As he walked down Main Street, the quaint shops were a stark contrast to the glitzy showrooms of his empire. He spotted the diner, its sign flickering just like the old memories: burnt toast and warm laughter shared over pancakes. Jack's heart pounded at the thought of seeing Emily. Did she still remember their plans for forever? Would she resent him for trading their dreams for dollar signs? Inside the diner, the clattering of plates mixed with the chatter of patrons. And there she was, Emily, her sun-kissed hair and tired smile wrapped in soft denim. It felt like time collapsed. So many years poured into that single glance, hurt and unspoken words bubbling beneath the surface. Jack, she breathed, her voice a soft melody that made the room fade away. Emily, he managed, but the tension crackled like a live wire around them. Memories flooded back, their first kiss, their plans to open the cafe together, the warmth of Ethan's laughter before life had swept him away. Each moment was a reminder of what he had lost. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The charity event loomed later that night, an opportunity for him to show off his success, but all he saw was Emily. He could feel the profound divide between their lives. Wealth wasn't just wealth, it seemed a fortress that shielded him from the struggles that shaped her, that shaped their son. Then he learned the truth: if things didn't change soon, Emily's diner would close for good. The very heartbeat of their community was at risk, and a fire ignited within Jack. He couldn't let the woman who held his heart for so long lose the dreams they once shared. Gathering his courage, he began to weave together a plan to revitalize the diner and bring hope back to the town, an act that might also reconnect him with the love he had let slip through his fingers. As he prepared to speak at the charity event, Jack felt his pulse racing. Would this be enough to mend what had been so cruelly fractured? Behind the grandeur of his suits and accolades, the truth lay bare: he was still the boy who had loved her fiercely and lost everything chasing a dream. Would he have the strength to face his past, or would the weight of his choices push them further apart? The audience shifted, anticipation thick in the air as he took the stage. Jack could feel every gaze on him, but his heart was only focused on one person: the woman who had always believed in him. Was it possible to garner a second chance? As he prepared to share his heartfelt proposal, all he could feel was the fragility of hope, fluttering like a bird inside him. Will it soar, or will it fall? Jack stood at the podium, the microphone amplifying the sound of his heartbeat. The glimmering chandelier above cast a warm glow, illuminating smiling faces and the hushed whispers of anticipation. He could feel Emily's presence intensifying his nerves. Her gaze was both a lifeline and a weight. He cleared his throat, the familiar taste of adrenaline rising. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Jack began, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "I'm not here to just raise funds or tout my success. I'm here because this town, this diner, and the warmth of its community mean everything to me." A ripple of surprise washed over the crowd. He sensed their interest transforming into genuine curiosity. Jack took a deep breath, casting a glance toward Emily. She looked uncertain, but her eyes sparkled with a flicker of forgotten hope. "I grew up here. I learned about hard work and dreams in this very diner," he continued, letting memories shape his words. But I also learned about love and the consequences of losing it. The silence hung between them like a bridge over deep water. He had to cross it. Emily, Jack said, locking his eyes onto hers. This diner is more than just a place for coffee and pie. It's where our dreams began. And it's at risk of being lost. His voice caught slightly. I can't let that happen. Not again. As his proposal unfolded, Jack shared his vision. He spoke of community events, revitalizing the space, and even incorporating some new menu items inspired by his travels. He promised that they would host workshops for kids to learn about cooking and create opportunities for local artists. Jack's passion was palpable, flowing through each word. He was painting a dream that could reignite their shared history. The audience leaned in closer, the energy in the room shifting from skepticism to hope as he painted a picture of a future rooted in love and community. Imagine this diner filled again, he urged, not just with food and laughter, but with a sense of family and belonging. With your help, we can make this dream a reality for all of us. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Jack felt the potential crackle in the air, but deep inside, fear wrestled with excitement. Could he bring Emily back into his life? Would this plan be the bridge that connected their fractured hearts? As the murmurs of consensus began to rise, Jack noticed Emily, her expression shifting from surprise to contemplation. He had put everything on the line tonight. She was his focus, and the way her lips slightly parted indicated he had struck a chord. With cautious optimism, Jack stepped off the stage after wrapping up his presentation. The applause was thunderous, but all he could hear was the pounding in his chest. He approached Emily, who was lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. Jack, she started, but words failed her. The emotions danced in her eyes, a mixture of confusion, hope, and a tinge of disbelief. He reached for her hand, feeling the warmth and tenderness he had so missed. Let us do this together, Emily. We can revive this place, and maybe he hesitated, his heart racing, find each other again. She searched his gaze for certainty, for the boy who once dreamed with her. Jack stood still, suspended in a moment that felt fragile yet electrifying. Would she take his hand? Would she dare to dream again? Can we really go back? She whispered, vulnerability laying heavy in her voice. As Jack searched her eyes, the possibilities seemed endless, and the future felt filled with both promise and fear. His chest tightened. This was the leap both had been avoiding for years, but he knew it was time. Let us find out together, he said softly, a flicker of hope igniting between them. And in that moment, the real journey was about to begin, their hearts once more intertwined in the quest for love, hope, and a second chance. What awaited them now? Would their past allow them to carve a new future, or would they crumble under the weight of old wounds? Together, they stepped into the uncertainty ahead. Jack's hand enveloped Emily's, and for a heartbeat, the world around them dissolved. The applause faded away, the laughter of their friends became a muffled echo, and only the electric connection between them remained. Let us go outside, he suggested, his voice barely above a whisper, and she nodded, the weight of the moment urging her forward. As they stepped out onto the porch, the cool night air wrapped around them like a protective shawl. Stars twinkled in the clear sky, mirroring the spark of hope resting in Jack's heart. Emily leaned against the railing, looking out into the dark, as if searching for answers in the abyss. I never thought, she began, but the words stumbled. Not in a million years. Jack moved closer, drawn to her vulnerability. You don't have to say anything yet. Just think. This diner holds so many memories for both of us. I've spent so long trying to forget those memories, Emily confessed, her voice trembling. Trying to move on. It's hard to confront everything again. I know, he said softly. But what if facing it head-on could lead to something beautiful? Not just for the diner, but for us. At that, she turned to look directly into his eyes. What if it doesn't? What if we try, and it all unravels again? Can we take that kind of risk? Fear coursed through Jack, but he swallowed it down. I think we owe it to ourselves to try, he said, his voice growing firmer as he clenched her hand. We spent so many years together. We built our dreams here. If there's a chance to rebuild, shouldn't we take it? Emily's brow furrowed, a flicker of indecision etched across her face. Jack could feel her heart racing, mirroring his own. They had both tucked away their feelings, sealed them with time. He knew she still felt something for him, buried deep within. Jack, I'm scared, she admitted, the honesty in her voice ringing clear. What if we fail? What if we hurt again? I don't want to go through that again. I'm scared too, he confessed, his own fears surfacing. But we can't live in the shadows of our past forever. We have to face it. Together. And love is worth fighting for, don't you think? Tears shimmered in Emily's eyes. It feels different now. So much has happened. I've changed. Maybe that's a good thing, he said gently. We've both grown. We've learned. Maybe we're ready to explore what we once had but never fully embraced. Her breath hitched as she searched his gaze. Jack could see the fight within her, a longing coupled with the dread of getting hurt. He took a step closer, losing himself in the warmth of their shared memories. What if I can't trust you again? She asked, her voice cracking. I'll earn that trust back, Jack replied fiercely, the conviction streamlining through him. This time, I won't let you down. Not again. Her eyes softened, and Jack held his breath, hoping for a miracle. That familiar glimmer of an old flame flickered to life between them. Maybe we start small. Emily suggested, cautiously. Help each other with the diner, see if that rekindles anything. Jack nodded, relief flooding through him. Yes. A fresh start. Together. As they stood there, wrapped in the sweetness of possibility, hope mingled with the cool night air, a promise of what could be. But, just then, the headlights of a car sliced through the darkness, pulling both of their attention. Jack's chest tightened as the vehicle pulled into the diner's lot. Who could it be? A swirl of tension seeped into the air, threatening to unravel the moment they were just beginning to weave together. Jack. Emily's voice carried the weight of unspoken questions. He turned toward her, determination etched on his face. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, right? But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the uncomfortable feeling building in his gut. What awaited them in the shadows beyond? What new challenges would threaten to derail their fragile reunion? As the headlights dimmed, anticipation thickened the air, each of them holding their breath for what came next. The car door swung open, and a figure stepped out, silhouetted against the diner's neon glow. Jack squinted, trying to make out the details. As the person walked into the light, his heart dropped like a stone. Mark, Emily whispered, her eyes widening in disbelief. Jack felt the air leave his lungs. Mark, Emily's ex-boyfriend, the man who had replaced him in her life. Jack fought to keep his expression neutral, but inside, turmoil churned like a storm. Emily, I didn't expect to see you here, Mark said, his voice dripping with an easy charm that made Jack's fists clench instinctively. Emily shifted uncomfortably, caught between two worlds. We were just outside. Her voice trailed off, searching for an escape from the sudden tightness in the atmosphere. Mark turned his gaze to Jack, and for a moment, the air crackled between them. And you are? He asked, feigning ignorance, but the challenge in his eyes was unmistakable. I'm Jack, he replied, keeping his voice steady, though the weight of the moment threatened to crush him. Ah, the old flame, Mark said with a casual smirk. So, you two have reunited? Jack clenched his jaw. We're reworking some old things. The dismissive wave Mark tossed at their reunion felt like a physical blow. Good luck with that. It's been 6 years, after all. Things change. Emily's eyes darted between the two men, caught in the crossfire. Mark, what are you doing here? She finally managed to ask, her tone firm yet tinged with uncertainty. "I was in town on business. Thought I'd stop by and see how the diner was doing." "I know how much it meant to you," he said, with mock sincerity. Jack felt his muscles tense. "You don't get to come back and act like you care." "Care? No, I don't," Mark shot back, a hint of amusement dancing on his lips. "But it's entertaining to see you here, Jack. Chasing someone who already moved on." Emily's face flushed, caught between anger and embarrassment. She could feel the tension spiraling as the two men faced off. "This isn't the time for this." She hesitated, lost in the moment. Mark held up a hand, silencing her. "Look, Emily, I just wanted to see how you were doing. But it seems you're still stuck in the past." Jack felt a fire igniting inside him. "Stuck? She's here now. Standing with me. Maybe it's you who's stuck in the past." "Gentlemen," Emily interjected, her voice rising, "this isn't helping. We were just talking about the diner. Can we please keep it to that?" Mark stepped closer to her, casting a shadow over her smaller presence. "You have every right to hold on to your memories, Emily. But remember, sometimes moving forward means leaving parts of the past behind." Jack could see the struggle on her face, the weight of decisions heavy in the air. The fragility of their moment felt like glass, ready to shatter. "We already faced that choice, remember?" Jack said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "We're not done yet. Are you really fighting for her? Or just for the sake of pride?" Mark taunted. "Enough!" Emily shouted. The heat in her voice made both men step back. "I'm not a prize to be won or a trophy for either of you." The night hung heavy with her words, silence falling like a blanket. Jack felt the urgency of the moment. He turned to Emily, desperation creeping into his heart. "What do you want, Em? Who do you want?" At that instant, the air shifted, carrying the weight of their past and their hopes anew. Emily's gaze darted between the two men, and Jack held his breath, waiting for her answer. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, another car pulled into the lot, headlights spilling forth another set of shadows. Jack's heart raced at the thought of what or who could emerge next. "Emily," he whispered, "please choose wisely. What would she decide? Could their reunion survive this unexpected test?" The new car glided to a stop, and before Jack could fully process it, the door swung open. A figure stepped out tall, confident, and carrying an air of authority that felt almost suffocating. Jack squinted again, his heart racing as he recognized the man. "Who is that?" Emily whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "That's Ryan," Mark replied with a smirk. Our old friend from college." Jack's stomach twisted. Ryan had always been part of Emily's world, a world he thought he'd left behind. But here he was, suddenly part of this night. "Ryan," Emily said, her tone now a mix of surprise and hesitance. "What are you doing here?" He walked toward them, looking genuinely glad to see her. "I heard you were in town. Wanted to catch up. It's been too long." Jack clenched his fists, feeling like a ghost in his own scene, like an intruder in a play he didn't understand. Ryan was so easygoing, so comfortable, while Jack felt like he was standing on shaky ground. This is Jack," Emily introduced, motioning hesitantly between them. "Nice to meet you, man," Ryan said, extending his hand casually. Jack hesitated but shook it, forcing a tight smile. Mark looked between the three of them, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Looks like you guys are having a little reunion of your own. Just missing the popcorn." Emily shot Mark a glare. "Can we just focus on something else? We were having a conversation." "Sure, no problem," Mark said with a dismissive wave, eyeing the diner as if it were an exhibit in a museum. "But I can't help but feel this is entertaining." Jack turned to Emily, desperation swimming in his chest. "What did you want to say?" Emily opened her mouth to respond, but a sudden crack of thunder interrupted the moment, sending a shiver through the hot night. Dark clouds rolled in, casting shadows over their confrontation. The air felt electric, and Jack's heart raced at the thought that time was running out. "I don't want to revisit the past," Emily finally said, taking a step toward Jack. "We have to decide what this means for us now. Right?" It felt like a lifeline, but as Jack tried to gather his thoughts, Mark's mocking laughter broke through the tense air. "Right, because you've all got clarity now. Don't kid yourselves. You want to play house, but what's the plan?" Mark's eyes glittered, challenging her, making Jack's anger flare. Emily pressed her lips into a thin line, her resolve wavering. "I'm just trying to figure things out, Mark. And you coming here for a little act of nostalgia? We all have life to live, right?" Mark shot back dismissively, the sarcasm phasing into irritation. Ryan stepped back, sensing the growing tension. "How about we all just take a breath? No need to turn this into a scene for the diner's late-night crowd." Jack met Emily's eyes. The vulnerability there gave him hope, but it also increased his anxiety. "Emily, we can work it out. But with everyone in this mix. Maybe I should go," she said softly, her smile faltering, and Jack's heart plummeted. "Don't you dare," he urged, panic creeping into his voice. "You can't run away from this." But before she could answer, a loud crash echoed in the distance, tires screeching, followed by worried shouts. The night spiraled into chaos, drawing their attention away. They all turned toward the noise, the moment suspended on the edge of uncertainty. Jack's heart raced as he glanced back at Emily. "No matter what happens, don't go anywhere." The pandemonium grew closer, and in the heart of that storm, Jack's instinct screamed. They were at a crossroads, and the choice lay within Emily's hands, but time was unraveling faster than he could grasp what would emerge from the shadows next. Would they be pulled apart by the chaos or united in their fight? The air thickened with tension as the distant shouts grew louder, blaring like warnings on a stormy night. Jack's heart drummed in his chest, matching the chaos unfolding around them. For a split second, he couldn't tell if it was fear of the accident or depth of the moment with Emily. Both shook him to his core. Mark rolled his eyes, the amusement draining from his face. "What the hell is going on over there?" Ryan pulled out his phone, flicking it on as Jack felt Emily's presence shift next to him. She stood there, uncertainty in her eyes, her fingers twisting a ring on her hand like a lifeline. He desperately wanted to reach for her, to tell her everything would be all right, but the moment felt so fragile amid the surrounding noise. Jack felt trapped, like he was aligning his life with Emily's choice. "You still want to talk, right?" he asked, his voice barely coherent over the distant sirens. "Not here, not now," she replied sharply, her gaze flicking to the source of the chaos. It hurt to see her retreat, but even more frightening was the anger looming over their group. Ryan, always the mediator, nodded toward the direction of the sound. "Let us check it out. We can talk after." "Good idea," Mark affirmed, striding ahead with a swagger that made Jack's stomach churn. "With any luck, it'll end the drama." "Mark, wait," Emily called out, her voice shaky. They watched as he disappeared around the corner, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Ryan followed suit, but Jack hesitated, tethered to Emily like she was the only thing holding him together. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, running his thumb over her trembling hand. She looked at him, searching for something, a clarity that seemed elusive now. "Jack, I don't know. I came here to figure things out," but now her words trailed off, drowned out by the noise escalating beyond their view. He nodded, trying to stay grounded. "Remember what you said earlier? We need to decide now what this means for us." His voice was firm, laced with urgency. The moment paused, like the world around them held its breath. Rain began to fall, lightly at first, as if hesitant to join the chaos. Jack saw her deep in thought, her features softened by the glimmering streetlight reflecting off the raindrops. "We have to face it together," he pushed gently, eyes fixed on hers. When we ignore the storm, it doesn't just go away. I want to, Emily whispered, almost shyly, but doubt curled in her words. Jack saw the flicker of indecision in her gaze. But Ryan, he complicates things. Complicates or reveals? Jack countered, gripping her hand tighter. Maybe he is here to show you that past can exist in the present, but only if you let it. Before she could respond, the sounds of commotion neared, and Emily's eyes widened. We should follow them. What if someone is hurt? Jack barely took a breath before following her lead. Their pace quickened as they rounded the corner, where the scene unfolded before them. A car flipped on its side, sirens blaring, emergency responders rushing into action. Jack's heart sank. This was real chaos, a stark reminder of their own fragility. He saw people gathering, faces painted with concern, confusion. For a fleeting second, he caught Ryan amidst the crowd, moving close to where the first responders were assessing the situation. Stay back, Emily shouted as the commotion surged, reaching for his arm. We can't get involved. But the urgency pulsing through Jack wouldn't allow him to retreat. I need to know what is happening. People could need help. Jack, please. She begged, desperation threading through her voice. Suddenly, the once clear division of their lives felt blurred. Jack turned to her, feeling the weight of unspoken words hanging in the tension. Don't you understand? This is exactly like us. Messy, chaotic, desperate. A sudden scream pierced the air, sending cold chills down Jack's spine. He turned to see a figure struggling beneath the wreckage, a wave of uncertainty crashing over him. The moment held them all, a reckoning overshadowing their individual battles. Gradually, Emily stepped closer to him, the resolve on her face shifting to something more vulnerable, yet steady. We can't ignore each other any longer. As they stood together, daring to face the unknown, Jack felt time slip through his fingers. This was their moment, the choice they needed, but it all hung in the balance. Would they leap toward each other or remain stuck in the linger of unresolved tension? The sirens roared, drowning out his thoughts, but the question remained: what road would they take now, amidst the chaos? Would they step into the storm or find shelter in each other? In the heart of the chaos, adrenaline surged through Jack, igniting a fire of determination. He couldn't look away from the scene unfolding before him. The figure squirmed desperately under the crumpled metal of the car, each cry tugging at Jack's insides like a fraying thread. Jack! We can't! Emily cried, her voice shrill against the wail of the sirens. But panic couldn't drown out his instincts. He felt a magnetic pull to the wreckage, and his feet moved before he could think. Just stay here. He shouted back, not ready to lose the moment they were finally stepping into together. The world around them faded, his focus narrowing to that trapped person, a fellow human being who needed help. With his heart pounding, Jack pushed through the masses that had gathered, nudging past frightened faces and the distant murmurs of onlookers. Emily's protests faded into a distant hum as he broke free from her grasp. Someone get a crowbar. Jack yelled to the crowd. We need to lift this thing. He didn't know if anyone even heard him. It didn't matter. Gripping the edge of the car, he braced himself, his palms slick with rain, the downpour intensifying. The air buzzed with tension and the sudden clash between urgency and helplessness. Jack! He felt her fingers wrapping around his forearm, grounding him momentarily. Emily, no. I can't just stand here. The resolve in his voice was visceral, the need to act overwhelming. She hesitated, torn between fear for him and the sheer helplessness of the moment. Finally, she released him, nodding with a mixture of resignation and admiration. In that glance, they shared something unspoken, a connection that was mending as quickly as it was breaking. Jack and a few others began to heave at the car, straining against the weight of its metal frame, hearts racing in sync with their efforts. He focused on the sound of creaking steel, the clash between hope and fear reverberating off their determined voices. Little by little, they shoved the wreckage just enough to catch a glimpse of the person underneath, a young man, bloodied and terrified. "Help is coming. Just hold on," Jack forced out, feeling his own heart constrict as despair flickered in the young man's eyes. He realized that in the midst of this storm, they were all bound together by this desperate little act, the simple choice of collective humanity amidst chaos. A shout had broken through the ambient noise, and finally, the first responders surged forward, ready to leverage their tools for rescue. Relief washed over Jack, but it was short-lived as the man's face contorted in pain, looking directly at him. In that moment of fear and urgency, everything Jack had bottled up came rushing back to him. He thought of Emily, the weight of the past pressing down, and with it came the clarity of knowing they had to confront their shared history. The accident outside mirrored the wreckage inside both of them. Jack turned back, eyes locking onto Emily. He saw the worry etched in her features, a worry he shared but now understood more deeply. Whatever road they chose, the storm would need to pass, and they'd have to grapple with the debris left behind. "Jack!" Her voice broke through his thoughts, filled with urgency once more as she stepped closer, rain plastering her hair against her face. Forcing himself away from the scene, he approached her, the rain washing down around them like both a cleansing and a curse. "Emily, we can't keep pretending this isn't messy. We need to talk," she said firmly, but there was a tremble beneath her resolution. "After this?" His voice bore the weight of 1,000 unsaid words, minds racing through what they faced together, separately, what had yet to come. But just then, the chaos roared back to life as another scream pierced through the din, an echo of the struggles they were all too familiar with. Jack felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. "Emily, if we don't confront this now, what's the point? What if we end up like that?" She hesitated, gazing at him with uncertainty. Their conversation hung suspended not just in the rain, but in their very choices. Would they rise above the wreckage or be swallowed by it? As the sirens continued to wail like a banshee and chaos surrounded them, the weight of their decisions threatened to collapse under pressure. Would they risk it all, step into the storm, or would the past keep them bound in chains? Jack's heartbeat filled his ears, drowning out the chaos around him. He stared deep into Emily's eyes, searching for any sign of what they should do next. The wet air hung heavy between them, charged with unsaid words and unresolved feelings, like a storm swelling just before it breaks. "They're coming," Emily whispered, glancing back at the first responders gearing up with their equipment. But her voice lacked the conviction of hope. They both felt the weight of the moment hanging over them. The young man under the wreckage let out another pained cry, and it cut Jack like glass. He stepped closer to Emily, drawing strength from her presence despite the rain drenching them both. With the emergency crew arriving, a few onlookers moved aside, allowing the paramedics room to work. Jack felt a flicker of hope sparking within him. Maybe he wasn't too late after all. Maybe they could save this life before it was extinguished completely. But as they waited, that flicker dimmed. The ambulance crew knelt beside the car, and Jack's eyes remained locked on Emily. The distance between them felt like a chasm, filled with shadows of memories they hadn't yet faced. "We can't ignore this, not now. Not after everything," Jack finally said, urgency propelling his words forward. The truth poured out of him, raw and unfiltered, as the distant wail of sirens filled every crevice of his heart. This was about more than just the crash. This was about them. Emily's face softened for a moment. Then the clouds of uncertainty returned, deepening the lines of worry etched into her forehead. "What do you want me to say, Jack? That everything is fine? That we can just walk away from it all?" "It's not that simple. I know it's not, but we owe it to ourselves to face it. Together. Just like we're doing here," Jack said, motioning toward the rescue scenes unfolding around them. "Even if we're scared. She interrupted, voice rising. "Scared doesn't even come close. We're shattered and stuck, and trying to fix one life doesn't mean we can fix ours." Their eyes locked again, and for a moment, everything else fell away. The ambulance lights flashed, rhythmically illuminating the fear and hope flooding their expressions. Jack felt a pulse inside him, calling them to gather the broken pieces, not just for themselves, but for each other. Let us be brave then. For once, let us not let the fear control us, he urged, pleading with her to see his side. He could sense her walls crumbling, even if just a little. There was something there, buried between the hurt and the hesitance, waiting to surface. Brave enough to do what? Emily questioned, the challenge in her voice mingling with desperation. Brave enough to be honest about us, he said quietly. Before it's too late, before we end up like he faltered, the words dying out. She exhaled a shaky breath, mind racing through possibilities, her resolve cracking under pressure. Could they truly face what had happened? Before she could answer, the team at the wreck lifted the car just enough for the young man's body to be seen fully. Jack's gaze snapped away from Emily, his heart racing once again, darkness looming over him as the cries of the trapped soul echoed around them. The tension felt insurmountable as they shouted words of reassurance to the victim, yet fear coursed through Jack. He needed to act, needed to keep moving forward to salvage not only this young man's life but perhaps, against all odds, theirs too. Emily, I know it's messy. But let us not let this storm drown us, he whispered, and with one last look, he stepped closer to the responders. Behind him, he could feel Emily's presence waver, but the words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Time felt suspended, and he prayed she would understand. As they worked together, the darkness began to break, but only for a moment. Jack could feel the truck shifting beneath their feet, like the ground they were treading unsteady, ready to break apart. Jack, look out! Emily's voice rang out just as the structure shifted again. Before he could comprehend what was happening, the world around him began to buckle. Would he be ready to face the fallout, or would they all be caught beneath the weight of their decisions? The air froze as he braced himself for impact. Jack's instincts kicked in as adrenaline surged through him. He dove to the side, the world spinning around him as he tried to catch a glimpse of Emily. The sound of metal crumpling echoed in his ears, drowning out the sirens and the cries for help. The ground shook violently as the vehicle teetered precariously. Jack felt a rush of panic as he scrambled, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just put himself in even greater danger. Emily! He yelled, trying to drown out his fear with her name. The rain poured harder, muffling his voice as if the storm itself wanted to silence him. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw Emily gripping a nearby tree, her face pale, eyes wide with shock. In that moment, he realized that their fates had always been intertwined, like the roots of that tree bound together but often hidden from plain sight. He felt the weight of that connection bearing down on him even as the debris shifted dangerously. Get back! He shouted to her, but she remained frozen, staring at the collapsing wreckage. With a sudden crash, the structure fell into itself, a heavy, unforgiving weight crashing against the ground. For a breathless moment, all was still. Jack pushed himself to his feet and raced towards Emily, who finally moved, her footsteps shaky as she backed away from the wreck. Are you okay? He asked, voice strained as he reached her side. Their hands brushed, and it sent an electric shock through him, one that sparked the unspoken words they had tiptoed around for years. I'm fine, she stammered, though her eyes reflected a storm of emotions that mirrored his own. They were still stuck under the weight of everything, and now, here they were, having danced along the edge of the void together. Just stay close to me, he urged, glancing back at the wrecked vehicle. There was nothing he could do right now except protect her. As onlookers gasped at the scene, paramedics sprang into action, their training kicking in like a well-oiled machine. Jack could barely register their movements. His focus was solely on getting Emily to safety. Jack, we have to help, she insisted. They can't do this alone. He shook his head. We need to make sure we're okay first. We can't help anyone if we're underneath that, he said, pointing at the wreck and the first responders scrambling around it. But she wouldn't budge. I can't just stand here. Someone is hurt. With a sigh, he pulled her close, feeling her heart thudding against his chest. You're right. Let us do this together. But promise me we'll keep each other safe. Her eyes softened, and for a moment, they were just two people trying to find their way in the chaos, a chaos that had little to do with the accident and everything to do with them. Together, she finally confirmed, the weight of her breath mingling with the rain. As they approached the scene, Jack felt their unspoken bond surge. He could see the fear and desperation in Emily's eyes, a mirror of his own, and yet something sparked between them, a promise they both needed to acknowledge. With hands intertwined, they moved to be part of something bigger, a unit in the swirling storm surrounding them. They were stepping into that dark space, ready to face whatever came next, emotionally and physically. But as they got closer, the atmosphere shifted. A scream broke through the urgency, and it was followed by another. Jack held his breath, knowing that they were not just here for the lives around them, they were here to confront the truth buried deep beneath their own wreckage. Emily's voice trembled as she turned to him, the reality settling in. What if this changes everything? The unsteady ground beneath felt insignificant compared to the weight of her question. And as he looked into her eyes, he realized that the greatest collision was not happening outside, it was within them. Maybe it has to, he replied, the sincerity of his words hanging in the damp air. As they braced themselves for the unknown, Jack wondered if this storm would finally wash away the past and what would emerge on the other side. But for every storm that passes, a new chapter awaits. The rain turned into a drizzle, softening the chaos around them. Jack and Emily stood there, hand in hand, shadows of their pasts flickering in the light of the emergency responders' flashlights. Fear lingered, but so did a quiet strength. They were finally willing to face both the storm outside and the one within. As the paramedics worked to free the trapped victim, Jack felt a surge of resolve. With every breath, he looked at Emily beside him. She was no longer just his past but also his promising future. Together, he murmured, and she nodded, her grip tightening around his hand. Look! Emily exclaimed, her eyes flickering toward the scene as the team achieved a breakthrough, pulling the young man free amid a cacophony of cheers from bystanders. Relief washed over Jack like the rain falling softly around them. He's alive! Jack shouted, feeling a surge of hope. In that chaotic moment, the world outside faded, and it was just them and the heartening scene unfolding. As the ambulance doors swung open and the victim was loaded in, Jack turned to Emily, his heart racing. This is a reminder. We can be different. We have to be, he said, eyes locking with hers, urgency coursing through his veins. What happened tonight made it clear that life is too unpredictable to keep running from our truth. Tears shimmered in Emily's eyes as she processed his words. What truth, Jack? That we lost each other? That we came so close to losing ourselves? She inhaled shakily, shifting her gaze away for a moment as if the weight of their past threatened to crush her. No, he stepped closer, urgency threading through his voice. The truth that love is worth the risk. That we deserve a shot, a chance to rebuild what we had and make it better. If we can help others, why can't we help ourselves? He paused, searching her face for understanding. You deserve everything, Em, and so do I. Let's not wait for the next storm to face each other. Silence enveloped them, yet it was rife with unspoken affirmations. Emily wiped the tears from her cheeks and took a deep breath, a flicker of resolve igniting in her and for the diner. I guess we can start small, like we did before, she said, her voice stronger now, encouraging a smile from Jack. We can work together at the diner and see where it goes from there. Deal, he whispered, heart swelling with hope, feeling lighter than he had in years. And this time, we won't run from the mess. We'll figure it out together. With that, as the paramedics wrapped up their work, the air around them shifted as if the rain had washed clean more than just the streets. The past no longer felt like a chain but a stepping stone toward something entirely new. Emily's smile illuminated the night as she stepped closer. Jack, I'm grateful. for tonight, for being brave. And for you, for always believing in us, he replied, feeling the magic of the moment imbue the space between them. Stepping back toward the diner, side by side, a sense of renewed purpose carried them forward. As they entered the diner, silhouettes danced behind the counter, laughter bubbling up. The familiar warmth enveloped them, and Jack could see this was their opportunity to breathe new life into their dreams. "I can picture it now," Jack said, running his hands over the counter, imagining how they could make it flourish. "We'll host community dinners, local artists can showcase their work, and the kids can have cooking classes." Emily nodded, excitement glinting in her eyes. "And we'll serve the best pie in town." As they shared in that moment, Jack saw something beautiful flaring to life. The road ahead was still unmarked, but for the first time, there was clarity, a shared journey to reclaim what had almost been lost. They turned to each other, laughing, the sky outside lightening as stars began to break through the clouds. Love had never truly faded, it had just been waiting for them to return. Hand in hand, they stepped into the future together, ready to embrace whatever might come next, not merely as remnants of the past but as partners in building the dreams they once shared. And with that, Jack realized, the storms might come, but together, they could weather anything. Subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to be here for the next exclusive stories that inspire and transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes all the difference. Comment below your feelings about this ending, we want to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let us spread the love. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.